Hello S4. Today we're going to look at Unit 2, Multicellular Organisms, Control and Communication, Nervous Control. Specifically, what is the nervous system composed of and what are the parts of the brain? So there are, as well as this video, there is another video, the Mr. Mitchell one, which is a good summary. It covers all of this key area. So it covers the nervous system, the brain, it covers axons and relay neurons and things, and it also covers the hormonal cycle. So it covers a lot more than we need to cover for today. A little bit of retrieval practice. So if you could pause the video and have a little go at these questions, that would be good. So how is energy lost from a food web? What's the process of algal bloom formation? What are mutations? Explain why enzymes are said to be specific. Describe the first stage of aerobic respiration. Describe the base pairing rule. Describe why it's important that mitosis maintains chromosomal complement and where in the cell do chromosomes line up during mitosis. Okay, so energy is lost from a food web through undigested material, through movement, and through heat. Algal bloom formation is quite long, so we're not going to go through all of it, but in short, fertilizer gets into a water source from farmland that causes algae to grow, because that's what fertilizers are good for, growing plants. They die and they cover over the pond. When they die, bacteria feed on them, and the bacteria use up the oxygen in the ecosystem. That causes eutrophication. Mutations are random changes to the DNA of an organism. Enzymes are said to be specific as they have an active site which is complementary to only one substrate. The first stage of aerobic respiration would be glycolysis. It's the first stage of fermentation also. So glucose is broken down to pyruvate. That produces a little bit of ATP, and it's like it's breaking chemical energy down to other chemical energy. Base pairing rule is A to T, C to G, so adenine to thymine and guanine to cytosine. Explain why it's important that mitosis maintains chromosome complement. So we need all of our chromosomes. If during mitosis the cells didn't keep all their chromosomes, we would lose important genes. The last question is very important. A lot of people have been answering metaphase to this question in the Google Forms. Metaphase is a term you do not need to know until advanced higher. It's the name for that particular section of mitosis. The answer to this is the equator. So, sensing and responding to the environment. If it wasn't for your nervous system, your brain would just be stuck in a dark box. You wouldn't be able to sense what's happening on the outside, and you wouldn't be able to make any changes to your body. You wouldn't be able to control your hormones. You wouldn't be able to move. You wouldn't be able to do anything. So we have internal communication inside our body. So we can control our feet, we can control our hormones, we can control blood pressure, water balance, lots of things. Cells in our multicellular organisms don't work independently. They need to work together to survive. So how do we communicate? There's two ways. We use the nervous system and we use hormones. In this video, we cover around half of the nervous system topic. So the nervous system is composed of two things. We have what's called the central nervous system, which is the brain and spinal cord, and we have the peripheral nervous system, which is controlling everything off the side. Information from the peripheral nerves travel to the central nervous system, and information from the brain travels down the central nervous system and then is passed to the nerves of the peripheral nervous system to go out to the extremities of the body. Our nervous system controls all actions we make. Although we might not always be aware of it, it can do things without us even knowing. Most activities require us to move more than one part of our bodies at a time. This is called coordination. So if you lift your hand up and turn it at the same time, you are moving thousands of muscle cells in synchronicity at the same time. If you contract your hand, or if you smile or sing or talk, you're controlling lots of different parts of the body at the same time. Central nervous system, as we've said, is the brain and spinal cord. It sends messages to the muscles or glands and have them make appropriate responses. So we're going to find out a little bit about the structure. That covered the general idea of what the nervous system is and what it does. We'll look a little bit at the brain now. The brain is the control center of the body. It is one part of the central nervous system, along with the spinal cord. And the brain, for us, is composed of three parts. So we've got the cerebrum, we've got the cerebellum, and we have the medulla. So pay attention to the directions of diagrams on the brain. So we want the arrow going from the cerebellum to this bit, not the other way. So the medulla, I like to think of as the easiest part. It's the one that doesn't begin with C-E-R-E-B. The medulla controls your heart and breathing rate. If you are brain dead but still alive, that means that all this other stuff here is not working, but your medulla still is. The brainstem is still working. So this bit here at the bottom is the brainstem. It controls your breathing and your heart rate. So if this was to shut down, you would really be in trouble. Your cerebrum controls your memory, your personality, your reasoning, and a lot of your conscious thought happens up here in this big area. We don't need to know about the subsections of the cerebrum. And the cerebellum is this cauliflower-shaped thing at the back of the brain. It controls your balance and coordination. I like to think if someone hit you in the head with a bell, you would lose your cerebellar function, so you would lose your coordination and balance. If you've seen any of the X-Men films, the special hat that Professor X wears is called Cerebral because it allows him to amplify his conscious thought. So, controls reasoning, memory, and thought, coordination and balance, and controls your reflexes, your breathing, and heart rate. This just summarizes it nicely into the table for your notes. And we should be able to pause the video here and say what A, B, and C are. So if you could pause the video and have a go. Okay, so A is the cerebrum, B is the cerebellum, cauliflower, broccoli, and C is the medulla. So, apply your knowledge. A person has a stroke, which is a bleed or clot in the brain. It leaves them with short-term memory problems. Which part of the brain was likely to be affected? Is it the cerebrum, the cerebellum, or the medulla? Cats have an excellent sense of balance. What part of the brain is better in cats than dogs? So, cerebrum for the top one, and cerebellum for the bottom. The next lesson, we will look at the recap, the parts of the nervous system, and we will look at reflexes as well.